Music plays.
Yeah, well, it's just the longest minute anyway.
Grab your wine. It's time for Rosé all day and Juleigh's a mess, where we talk about current events and living in an intersex life. And now, here's Juleigh.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rosé all day. Juleigh's a mess. I have a little bit of a reverb, so I'm going to move that. I think that's better. I think my wine glass was in front of my microphone. So welcome to episode 26 of Rosé all day. I know that if you're joining us and watching from home, things look a little bit different in my studio. Usually I have the flowers behind me. I have the sign. It looks a little warmer, but I am in the process of packing and moving. And boy, what an emotional driven week it has been for me. I'm surprised. Last week I did not have anything to drink. This week I am drinking because I need it. So let's talk about my wine this week. I am drinking wine out of the box. It is Franzia. I actually really like it. I've already knocked into it a little bit and had a couple of nips. It is very refreshing in the way of rosés. A lot of people, I think, don't think boxed wine would be so refreshing. I did hear a tip this evening from my guest saying that normally people will take the Mylar bag out of the box and slap it at a festival before they have to drink it. There is no Mylar box in here. I'm going to show the camera. It is just a cavernous hole of wine. But, you know, I'm not one to be left behind. I poured it into my glass, into my XX Wine Rosé All Day tumbler, which is available on justjuleigh.com by clicking on the merchandise site. XX Wine Rosé All Day. Who doesn't want a mug with my mug on it? That's all I'm saying. Look, I got to hawk my own wares and pour wine down the front of my blouse because of a big ice cube. Guess I will be washing this later. Maybe I just want to touch my new boobs. Who knows? I'd like to say hello to everybody that's joining us in studio. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, you can always come in and say hi to us by joining the live comment thread and stream. Hi, Blair. Hi, Charlie. Those that are joining us right now. There may be more people watching, but we can only really see who joins through that comment thread. Let's get to it. My guest this week is the very lovable and smart, and I've known her for forever. I did her prom makeup. What? Truth. Veda King Blanchard. Hi, Veda.
Hi, Juleigh. Hi, everyone.
Veda, we have known each other a long time, huh?
Yeah. It has been a long time.
A long, like
more than 20 years, I guess.
90. I think I met you in 97 or 98. Does that sound about right?
96, I think. 97.
Yeah. Crazy. We were both living in New Jersey. What are you drinking this evening?
I am drinking a mead, and I have my water because hydration is important, and I'm going to push that.
I'm just moving back to the South where there's a lot of humidity, so I'll get my water intake that way because it'll infuse my pores. And then I'm just going to continue to drink wine. So that.
It's good to have a plan.
Right? It may not be a fruitful plan that works out, but it's good to have one. I think everybody should have one.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'll be living in my truck for the first couple of weeks on there. It's an adventure. I'm going to treat it like a festival, and hopefully I won't get murdered or raped. Or maybe I will. Who knows? You know, Juleigh is a mess. So how did we meet? Tell everybody at home how we met and what that was like, and maybe first impressions. How'd we meet, Veda?
We were both working at Lone Star Steakhouse, and we started taking cigarettes together because I know that I found you hilarious, and I think that was mutual. So my ego is pretty sure that that was mutual.
Still, you're still hilarious. I used to go over to your house a lot.
Well, I went to your house a lot actually during that time because I was a senior in high school, so I was still with my parents. And you definitely came over a few times, but we did a lot of like dress up in your apartment. And
of course we did.
Yeah. And you were doing drag at that time occasionally, so you would like try on outfits for me, and then after like you were set on what you were going to wear, essentially I became the dress up doll.
Accurate.
Which was fun. It was very fun.
And then we had a lot of fun just with other people at Lone Star, but we had a lot of fun. And I do remember doing your makeup for prom. I remember you asked me to do that, and I was like, what? And then I was working. I got a job at Club Monaco Cosmetics and left Lone Star. And then I would always drag you places. Like you were like, I'm not sure I want to go. You're coming. I don't have anybody else to take. It's you. And we used to go to that rinky dink. I think you worked there too. I know I worked there for like a weekend. To that like weird hotspot, like carnival type amusement place down the street from Lone Star.
Oh, I did not work there.
And they had Disney stickers all over it. And we were always like, how is Disney allowing this to happen? How are they not getting sued?
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, they had like it was a children's park, mostly Bowcraft, I think is what it was called.
Yeah.
And they had like one ride that was like that stereotypical ancient ride
with roller coaster
with the tracks that shake in like yeah.
And Flounder was like on the side of it. I was like, I don't get it. I worked there on the swings for like a weekend, and I was like, nope, this is not for me. This is not for me. I also had I wanted to be a mafia mole. I remember feeling stuck in New Jersey, and I wanted to live in New York, and I was trying to figure out how to live in New York. But I also was like, maybe I can become like a Real Housewives of New Jersey like 20 years before that show even started. It didn't work out for me. And I worked at Lord & Taylor in Westfield, New Jersey, and I wanted to work in like women's shoes, and I got stuck like in men's suits, and I was like, I don't want to do it.
Especially 20 years ago, like people breaking out of stereotypical societal molds was so much harder. It's still really hard. And
it was so hard.
Yeah.
I remember I quit Westfield. I had to yell at like the woman that was the president of she like was the manager of that particular store. And I remember having a meeting with her, and she was like, I don't understand why you don't enjoy working in men's suits. And I was like, the highlight of my day is measuring somebody's inseam. That doesn't happen often. I want to be in women's shoes. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Why you won't let me move there. Whatever. It was New Jersey. So then I moved to New York, and we kind of lost track. I think we talked about moving in for a while on Staten Island, and we were going to do that. And then we didn't. And then we kind of lost track. And then, God, it seems like forever ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I visited you in Staten Island, and then you moved into
New York.
Yeah, and I came to try and visit you, and my phone died like right before I got there, and I just couldn't find you. It was like a strange experience.
The mysteries of New York City.
The mysteries of New York
I couldn't find myself half the time that I lived there. Gosh. Sometimes I think back on my experiences in New York City and I think, how am I still alive? Because that is a mysteriously, beautifully crafted, wonderful city, but in its own way, it's very dark and like a real life LA Law or SUV program. Like I don't know how I survived. Anyway, we're moving on. We're moving on to current events. So one of my current events that we wanted to talk about this week, that I wanted to talk about this week is, and I love this subject, but it has definitely gone through a course of changes in the last couple of years. Some people say for the better, some people say for the worse. Yesterday was the Show Us Your Shoe Parade, which is a very popular tradition among the Miss America organization and their pageant every year. And essentially, it's girls from each state, Miss Mississippi, Miss Georgia, Miss Florida, Miss Nebraska. They sit in the back of an open car, like a convertible, and as they drive down the parade route, they show their shoes. And it started in Atlantic City as a precursor to the pageant every year. And it was a way for girls to show off their creativity. They designed their shoes. I remember Leanza Cornett years ago from Florida had oranges and orange blossoms on her shoes. So it's just a kitschy kind of precursor to the pageant every year. The pageant this year is not until December. I believe it's December 21st for the 2022 Miss America pageant. But the pageant this year is celebrating its 100th anniversary. So the first Miss America pageant was on September 8th, which is tomorrow, 100 years ago. Which is crazy when you think of all the institutions and all the things that are still going in America. That is a great testament. My mom was a part of the system. My grandmother was a part of the system. Had I been born fully female, I would have won Miss America. That's no doubt in my mind.
For sure.
But I took Veda to go to her one and only Miss America pageant. I want to say 1998. It was the year Kate Shindle won, and Kate Shindle went on to become president of the Theater Guild and the Actors Union for the theater AFTRA, and she is an actress, and she was from Jersey. But I remember dragging, Veda was like, "What are we doing tonight?" And I'm like, "We're driving to Atlantic City." $10 tickets to go see the Miss America pageant. Veda was like, that's not really happening.
Yeah, but you were so excited about it, and you had your tiara out. It was impossible to say no to you.
I was so excited.
You were
I was so excited about it. But do you remember any of it?
I do. I actually, the thing that really stands out in my memory so much is watching your emotions through it, because you know, it, like, immediately we're so joyful to be there. This is obviously my perception. So, and through memory, through 20 years of memory. So, but I like saw so much joy in watching you watch the stage, and then I saw your emotions kind of shift to just sorrow that you weren't going to be Miss America, and I saw some tears. I remember some tears, but just like watching how much it meant to you helped me look at the pageant presentation in a different way, which I think was really valuable.
And I still went on to coach in that system, and I went on to become a judge on the Florida state level. Still may do it moving forward. The pageant's changed a lot. I'm not really sure I'm on board with a lot of their new ideals, but the fact that it's 100 years this year is huge. And I do like when girls still strive to be a part of that. I think that ties into our next current event loosely, but I think pageants help show girls their value in the world. I think beyond the pretty and beyond being gorgeous and gracious and all that, I just think it helps build up self-esteem, and it helps women find a valuable place in this chaotic world where women are still not valued beyond being pretty or being smart or having control over their own body. And that leads us to our next current event. Drum roll, please. Not that they deserve one. Texas.
Yeah, they banned abortion after 6 weeks, which is before most women know that they're pregnant, which is insane. And it's just abusive. Like,
and punishable now. Punishable.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen so many memes this week. I saw one on Facebook the other day that said a woman could go out and sleep with 94 men in the next year, and she would still only carry one baby. One would take, and she would carry it to term, right? One baby. But a man could go out and impregnate 94 women in 1 year. Why aren't we giving men vasectomies?
Yeah.
Because those can be reversed. So why aren't we making men get those straight away and then say, you want kids and you're in a viable situation to have them? Great. You can go get your vasectomy reversed now.
I really see this as related to the larger issue of like exerting control over each other's bodies. Like telling people who know that they're, I know you're intersex, but for somebody who's trans, like telling somebody who knows that they're in the wrong gendered body, that they can't address that. Like, that's insane.
That's insane. And it's going to lead to more mental health issues, which we already battle with every day in some way.
Yeah.
We say in the intersex community, even though being intersex is not trans, all of these unnecessary surgeries that happen to intersex individuals out of the gate because doctors choose a path for them.
Right.
And that may not be the right path. Let them go through puberty and see how their body's going to react. And then they're at an age where their parents can sit down with them and their medical team can sit down with them and say, this is what you're looking at. What would you like to do? Right. But again, if we're going to go back to something like Texas is doing, people aren't going to have that ability to stand up and fight for themselves or advocate for themselves.
No, and even to the point of endangerment of life. Like if a woman is expecting to carry a child to term, has a name picked out, and then in that last month of pregnancy finds out that if the baby continues for one more day, that she's going to die, right? That's an impossible situation where a family has to choose between the woman has to choose between her life and her child's. And different women make different decisions, but not having that decision taken away. There are so many situations that are just, or just a woman who knows that she's not going to be able to support a child.
Because then what? Because so many women will show up and say, I need help. And then people are like, you shouldn't have opened your legs. I mean, it just leads to, and then it makes you think about Mexico, which I was reading about Texas, sharing this with you earlier. Mexico today came out and said, no, we're not going to punish or criminalize people for having an abortion. We're not going to do that to doctors so they're performing them. We're not doing that, which I laugh because you think Texas and Mexico go hand in hand with so many other issues politically across the board. And good on Mexico. But I just, just a capital blow, I think, to women everywhere. And just, I can't imagine. People have been telling me for weeks on TikTok, move to Texas. I'm like, there's no way I could get pregnant, but I'm not about to step foot in that state. Like, because then when I do need something done, you're going to come back and be like, nope, can't do it.
Right.
Nope. You can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, the only positive thing that I see as a potential coming out of it is how many women are enraged right now. And every enraged woman to me represents another person voting against the status quo.
Right. Or standing up and having their voice heard. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We are going to move into Julie's a Mess. What? This is the segment of our show where I tell a story from my past, and my guest, based on how they know me, gets to finish the story or try and come close. Veda claims she correctly guessed the ending to last week's story about the infamous man approaching me in the casino when I was on the show with Jake. Charlie has been on my show a couple of times, and Charlie, my friend, always gets the ending. I don't know if that's because he knows me so intrinsically well. That's not even a word, but
intrinsically. You were there.
I was almost there. Like I was. Veda knows me pretty well too, because I haven't changed a lot. And actually, it's funny because we were at a restaurant. She mentioned it earlier. We were at a restaurant we worked together called Lone Star Steakhouse. Lone Star can also be attributed to being a part of the Lone Star State, which is Texas, which ties into what we were just talking about. I'm making the connections now in my head, right? dot, straight line. Curvy, wavy line. Now, I'm not going to tell. There was a story that I don't know if you remember. There was a really cute young military guy that we worked with that everybody was just enthralled with, especially he worked usually lunches. This is not the Julie's a Mess story, but just to give you a highlight that I have always been the same person in both vessels. I approached this young guy once during lunch. We were all just sitting by the bar, and I said, "Oh, I can see that you wear boxers." And he said, "Yeah, how can you tell?" And I was like, "Because of the way it's laying." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "If you were wearing like boxer briefs, it would be tighter up or tighter up to your abdomen." I'm like, "You're not. You're wearing boxers," because I can tell that it's just kind of having a lackadaisical day. And he was so like embarrassed but flirty, and I was like, all right, I gotta go wait on my table now. Same person. So this story is Veda. Okay, so I'm gonna tell this story because I told Veda earlier this story is light and funny, but it's also how I have felt throughout the better part of the last couple of weeks. I have been so emotional with packing and trying to get out of Nebraska that even men are trying to take me out last minute and go do things with me. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. So like, that doesn't mean I won't do it when I get to Georgia. It just means that I'm like, no, leave me alone. So oftentimes at Lone Star on the weekends, Veda knows. I think didn't you start off as a seater there too?
I was always a host there.
You're always a hostess. So she knows. There were times I would turn around to her and I'd be like, "You sit me again, and I swear to God, I'm going to cut your fucking throat off." Like, she got it from everybody. Like, it was not always a heyday. And I think what the servers hated about it was on Fridays and Saturday nights back in the day, at Lone Star, every 30 minutes, the servers had to line dance.
Everybody had to line dance.
But not the guest.
Well, no, but like
staff had to line dance. Yeah. Right. And when you're waiting tables and your food's late and the kitchen's behind, the last thing you want to do is line dance.
Yeah.
One, because there would be a couple of times you'd be line dancing in the restaurant and people would like tug on your t-shirt and you'd turn around and you'd be like, what? You know, and you'd be dancing and they'd be like, where's my steak? Well, I don't know. I'll check on it as soon as Toby Keith finishes his song. Like, and it was horrible because they're frustrated, you're frustrated, and you're line dancing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it totally made it look like you didn't care that their tenderloin steak had taken 30 minutes. And I started to get smart because I would always make sure I had like a pitcher of Coke and a pitcher of sweet tea, and I'd come line dance, pull all my tables up. So at least it looked like I was trying to do my job while the company was making me line dance. Sometimes you would make tips because people would be like, will you teach my wife how to line dance? And you're like, sure. So you get a little bit of an extra tip. You're like, well, that works. That's good. Do you know what I mean? But it just on a Saturday or Sunday night, it became, there were nights when you were just like, I don't want to line dance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do it. I've done it every 30 minutes for the last 3 hours. I worked a double today, so I've been line dancing ever since lunch. I don't want to line dance anymore. And then they would keep us late some nights and be like, we're learning a new line dance. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. Great. So I do believe that there were some waiters that were there that just wanted to line dance. I don't know why they had a job. There were some waiters there that were like, I just want to line dance and roll silverware. I'll roll your silverware for you. Great. Go for it. Clean it before you roll it. So one night, it was like a Saturday night. I'd had the worst night. And Veda, I knew you were there because you were always there. And so they would always announce when you had to be ready to line dance,
Mm-hmm.
which it just killed me that they put so much emphasis on line dancing. Now it's rare that I like everybody that I work with and that I like my management staff, and that Lone Star, I really did like everybody that worked there. Like we all got along, we'd all help each other out. We all bitched about the same stuff. Even the management, we all bitched about the same stuff. The cooking crew was fun. And I worked in a lot of restaurants in my life. So, I mean, it wasn't that. It was just, I think that night it was the people. I think I didn't want to be there. I felt like I just didn't want to be there in my yellow Lone Star t-shirt and my jeans and my tennis shoes. And I was having a night. So they would announce usually like 10 minutes, or sometimes the seaters would come through and be like, hey, heads up.
Mm-hmm.
In 10 minutes, we're line dancing. And you'd be like, oh. Okay. So on this particular night, I didn't want to line dance. I'd already line danced like 3 times at night. I didn't want to do it. I just didn't. My tables were not turning over. The kitchen had been a little slow that night. So they line danced. And Juleigh was not out there. Bradford wasn't out there either. They line danced. No me. Finally, somebody found me later on that night and was like, you missed the last line dance. Where were you? And I was like, oh, oops. Sorry. Not sorry. So Veda, tell everybody where you think Juleigh was during that line dance. What was Juleigh doing that made her not available for that line dance? And in my defense, once I figured out that it worked, Juleigh started to miss a lot of line dance on Saturday nights.
I mean, in order to not get like lectured for it, it would have had to have been some kind of side work, which is a lot more legitimate than my first thought.
In my defense, I was doing side work of a certain kind. Yes. And it was side work that I could be like, oh, I didn't know we were dancing, if that helps. I could be like, oh, I didn't hear the announcement. I didn't hear it. Sorry.
Oh, were you in the back room?
No, kinda, no.
Because there's that party room.
No, I wasn't in the party room. You would have heard it. You would have heard the music in the party room. I found somewhere where you couldn't hear the music, you couldn't hear announcements. I swear to God, somebody could say the restaurant was on fire and I wouldn't have heard.
Oh, were you in the walk-in?
Yes. I would go make salads in the walk-in. Because you remember how all the salads needed the base like lettuce? So I would go in the walk-in and make salads and stack them so people could just run in there and grab them and throw their toppings on and be done. That I thought that was so ingenious. I was like, I'm going in the walk-in. And I would sneak in, like I'd make sure all my tables had everything they needed. And then literally right as people were like throwing things to the side and running outside to line dance, I would just sneak into the freezer, pull the door shut.
That's very clever. That's a great
make salads. Then I'd be like, oh, it's been about 4 minutes. I'd poke my head out and be like, oh, nope, they're still line dancing. Sometimes I would tell whoever's next to me, like I can't think of her name, but there was a short little adorable redhead and she was dating one of the other servers. Mm-hmm. And I can't think of her name right now, but loved her too. But I'd be like, will you check in on my tables during the line dancing? And she'd be like, sure, are you not going to be out there? And I have a headache. She'd come back in and she'd be like, they want more butter for their baked potato. I'm like, I'm on it. It's cold. I'm really cold.
Was Donna her name?
No, she was adorable. She
was dating one of the twins, right? There were the two twin servers.
Were the twins dark-headed?
One was, and the other was blonde, and they were shorter.
It may have been her. She was really cute. She lived right down the street a ways from the restaurant. And I remember I stayed with her a couple of times, and her boyfriend was really like conservative and would get mad at her whenever she would do things with me that were like questionable. So I remember one time I cut penises out of a Playgirl magazine and hid them like in her sugar bowl at her house because she was like, he put sugar on his cereal every morning. Yeah. And so I was like, well, he's going to get a big surprise tomorrow morning. And she'd come into work and she'd be like, he was so mad. He was so mad that there was a dick in the sugar bowl.
Kara.
What was her name?
Yeah.
God, I wonder where she is right now.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's hard to find people when you go on Facebook and type Kara. Long story. You won't find them. Jersey. Kara. She'd be like, oh my God, you've changed. You think? What gave it away? We are moving. Good job. I'm so proud of you. You were really trying. You were like,
I did. I put in a lot of effort. Last week felt easy. I was,
well,
whatever.
You got it. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
So it's about 6:33 in our podcast. We are moving into 5 questions. So 5 questions is a chance for us that are listening at home to better get to know Veda. I'm going to ask her 5 questions. Oftentimes conversations stem from the 5 questions. It's a way to get to know her better. There will be questions about her. There'll be questions about us. So my first question for you is, recently you and Eric, adorable Eric that fixes Colonel Mustard. I mean, I was looking at that. I was like, I need a guy like Eric that just wants to fix the lawn.
Right. I'm so grateful.
I mean, I don't know where you found him. I need to go and hopefully they have a store. So anyway, y'all moved recently into something called the tree house is what you're calling it. But is it a traditional tree house or is it just surrounded by trees? Tell us about that.
So we just purchased our first home and we moved across states to do it. So we were living in Easton, Pennsylvania. We moved down to Chesterfield, Virginia, which is right outside of Richmond. And we lucked out and found a unicorn property that has 3 acres and a main house, a working farm, and a back house, as well as a pavilion and a few greenhouses. So we stayed in the tree house, which is not technically in the trees. It's more built around the trees, while the floors in the main house were being refinished.
And you love it. So it's got and y'all are uncovering a lot of walkways.
We are. I mean, so the seller had some really challenging life events that that meant that the farm ultimately did not get cared for the last couple of years. But it's obvious, and I'm just turning to plug my computer because my light just flashed at me.
The computer's about to die.
All right, fixed. It's obvious that they had put a ton of care and planning into the property before that, because he built the treehouse actually, which has a ground floor. It's plumbed, and there's a lofted guest area with stairs outside that wrap around the tree. So they kind of built.
I'm moving in. I'll be there next week.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, and there's so much good structure underneath, and then all of the things that need TLC, and there is a lot, are just like the wear and tear things that like you have to keep up with, like the plants haven't been tended in the right way
in a while.
Yeah.
But there's some great stuff, and y'all are finding great critters, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it feels like such a blessing. I
feel like it should be on the Discovery Channel, and instead of the Browns, I'm watching the Blanchards, and like it's like your little homestead, and I click on Facebook, and I'm like, ooh, they found a turtle.
Yeah, and I have a business teaching rooted arts. I have a business called Rooted Arts. I'm like most of the way into my glass of mead right now.
Me too. I'm almost out of my franzia. I'm like, ugh.
And I teach mindfulness, and I'm also a Reiki master, and I teach massage and offer medical massage. But for the past year, I've been working with people over Zoom. And one of the things that I love about this property is that Eric and I are he's joining me in Rooted Arts, and we're expanding it to just cover and reflect on and our vision is kind of in progress, and it's, expanding, but mindful ways of interacting with land and with food and with every part of life. And one of the things that makes my heart so happy about it is that was my vision for Rooted Arts from the beginning, which is why my tag is a practice in conscious living.
I think recently I have really felt a connection to the earth and to fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I joke, because on TikTok they'll be like, "You're a witch," and I'm like, maybe. But one of the things I'm looking forward to about going back to Georgia is just being close to the ocean, which I've always been drawn to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I told a friend today, I said, I need a day where I can just take a beach chair and go sit on the beach and just have a really healthy, cleansing cry.
Yeah.
Like my body and my energy has just been craving that. And I wouldn't be surprised if my first day arriving in Savannah, I don't just run to the beach and just sit there and just sob. Because I just feel like collectively that's what I need.
Yeah. And that's, it's really profound that that. Having that awareness is huge. And one of the things, you were talking earlier about how you're moving again, and you just have all these changes coming up. And one of the things that I really like to keep in my mind in terms of change is that change always lights up our amygdala. It triggers that survival response. And that means that change is inherently scary. And having to go through and do, we just moved. We still are surrounded by boxes. Deciding what to keep, deciding how to move, making all of those decisions about change is a lot, and decompressing and honoring is really honoring yourself, to just give yourself that break. And on the other side of that kind of like profound release is more clarity about what comes next, you know?
Yeah, and I think it gives you a piece to kind of maneuver through whatever's coming, good or bad. I just think it gives you kind of this, like you said, a clarity, just to kind of be able to be like, you know, it just gives you that collective chance to just be able to breathe and sigh and just push kind of everything out and away, and just know that collectively you're where you're supposed to be at this moment, and you're open to all of them. Okay, so we talked about the truth. That was your first question. So second question, what's your favorite memory of us?
So actually, while you were talking about grieving, I remembered watching like both of us just needing a cry and like watching a sad movie together. I think it was Marley. Does that make sense? Like Marley and Me, you know?
Yeah. That was a tough movie.
Yeah. And just like, we were like, I think it was, I remember it as I came to visit you in Staten Island, and you had cooked like something simple, and you were like, I really need to cry. And I was like, that's great, because that drive was intense and I'm stressed the fuck out and I need to cry.
Right. Staten Island was another, when I think of Staten Island and I think of Nebraska, those 2 years, the year I was in Staten Island and the year that I've been here in Nebraska, they mirror each other in the sense that they've been very hard as an adult to get through. I think I'm thinking now of things that went on when I was in Staten Island, and I hate that I've had to repeat that. You know, this year's been really hard. I've gotten a lot of great things out of being here in Nebraska. I started justjuleigh.com. I've come into contact with people that have really kind of uplifted and supported me in different ways. And I wouldn't necessarily have had that if I didn't come to Nebraska. But the year in itself mirrors Staten Island in so many ways. And I think that's why collectively I'm just like, I want out. And I personally feel like as soon as I drive over the border from Nebraska to whatever state's next on the way back to Georgia, I think I'm just going to spend a good like 4 or 5 hours probably sobbing on the freeway, because I'm just like, my spirit just feels it. Like I can't rid myself of it fast enough. So it's funny that you mentioned that. And I feel like things are said when they're said, and things happen when they happen. And, you know, when you said that, I went, bam, this whole year's been like Staten Island for me. So I'm looking forward to, because for me, New York was considerably better than Jersey. And so I'm just hoping that Georgia is considerably better than the last year that I've had here in Nebraska. Question number 3. How'd you and Eric meet?
Well, we frequented, the simple answer is that we frequented the same coffee shop. But he at the time would work, he always works remotely, but he would work at the coffee shop in the public market in Easton. And I went there sometimes, but I met him and we like had a casual conversation, and then I started drinking a lot more coffee.
Clearly. Smart girl. Do you like coffie? No, I come here every day, and I figured
I love coffee, but I love
small business.
Yeah, I love coffee, like a cup of coffee in the afternoon, which is not how I drink it when I was trying to get more Eric exposure. And I kept
Can y'all imagine Veda? She probably would leave that coffee shop and she was like, it's all the caffeine, right? She was like, all this for man. It worked.
And then I kept inviting him to things. I had gotten tickets to go see Margaret Atwood speak, and I invited him to that. I had gotten tickets I just kept inviting him to things, and I kept like seeing him out and about too, because we kind of had like a crossover of friends behind the scenes. So after like months and months and months of me inviting him to go to things, he finally came and stopped by the bookstore that I was working for part-time at the time. And he came in, and like the bookstore happened to be empty, and we had like a really connected conversation. And he was blushing when my coworker came in. And he's like,
it's like you got mail.
Right? He's so pale that like he was bright red. So it was really cute.
You know, I would have been working there, and I would have been like helping you. I would have been like, here's a great book on the Kama Sutra. Eric, look on this book on how to please a woman and really please her. Here's a book called Dixon Colonel Mustard, so he's able to get through the treehouse yard.
Yeah. And then
he's listening to this and he's like, oh my God.
So we actually have been talking a lot the past couple of days about the night that we like, because we had a slow moving like thing, but the night that we really like we held hands and we stayed up until sunrise talking, sitting on the floor of my bathroom.
I've sat on that bathroom floor before.
And so like a bunch of friends came out with me, and we went to this place, Two Rivers Brewing Company in Easton, which is great. And I got up and went to the bathroom, and when I came back, the whole table had gone outside to smoke cigarettes, right? And Eric had just gone with them because he didn't want to sit by himself. But so I came to this empty table, and it looked like everybody had left, except here was Eric's bright blue striped scarf, folded neatly and draped over the back of his chair in the most visible way possible. Right? So cute.
Like, I'm still here.
So I went outside, and when I got outside, everybody else was just ready to go in. And so Eric and I stood outside talking for a little bit. And at the time, he had waist-length hair. His hair is still like fairly long, but it's not as long as it was. And so he like took out his ponytail to kind of like adjust his hair, like everybody with long hair does. And I was just so entranced, and I reached out to touch it, but it like happened to be this moment where he moved his head away, but he moved his head and saw what I was doing, and then turned his head and put his head like back under my hand. It was the most adorable thing.
I'm not calling Eric a dog, but it's like when a dog is totally like, pet me.
It was really good.
Who needs Hallmark? Just ask Veda how she met Eric. Me. Let's see. Question. Fuck. I've been drinking. I think this is that was question 3. I think
so.
Okay.
Yeah. Question
number 4. How did you come up with the name Rooted Arts?
I was taking a metaphysical class at a Center for Spiritual Living, which is which is an organization that essentially believes that God is everything, one organism that we're all a part of. And it's traditionally more spiritual than religious. But so I was in a science of mind class studying this metaphysical stuff, which means doing a lot of deep introspection. And one of the assignments in that class was to do a visioning exercise. And so I was at home working on visioning where I wanted to be in 5 years and what I wanted my life to look like. And I saw this land. I keep telling Eric I saw this land, literally, but I saw like a small yellow house with lots of lands around it and people interacting with each other and growing and just practicing being in present moment together. And so I like came out of that vision knowing that I wanted to call it Rooted Arts. It wasn't like a decision that I made in so much as like it felt true for me, you know?
Somebody just joined our chat. I'm listening to that, which I love. Susie Evolutionary just joined.
Oh, hi, Susie.
She said, hey, gorgeous gals. She said, Veda is the best, truly gifted, wise, and also hilarious.
Thank you, Susie.
You should see us together. Go back and watch the rest of this video. Juleigh may have to come visit the treehouse in the next couple of months.
Yeah, we are. One of the reasons that we're so grateful to have the treehouse is that, well, I'm going to be taking clients out of there soon, but it gives us the ability to have guests.
Yeah.
No matter what the pandemic looks like, you know, like even if we have to distance, we can still have people come and visit, you know, it's so nice.
Susie said that laugh though. Yes, she's always had that laugh, Susie. Always. I remember that laugh when people would come into Lone Star and be like, we want a table, we have 5 people, and she'd be like, what? Come back tomorrow. No, I'm kidding. You need a reservation. Your 5th question. Your parents, I don't know why this just came to me, but usually I used to write out my questions if I know enough about my guests, but I also like just the evolutionary, thank you, Susie, progress of where questions come from. And so I remember your dad and mom being very particular about your education and being very kind of like grounded in that being your successful future. Like, I just remember them always being school-minded. Not always, but there was definitely a concentration on that. Are you close with your parents now? And how do they feel about this trajectory kind of journey that you've been on? I know. I don't always ask easy questions, Veda. I don't.
Need now, too.
I don't always ask the fluff questions. I'm sorry. To preface this question, a lot of people often ask me about how my family has felt about what I've had to go through. And I have always said that I don't honestly believe that children are born onto this planet to necessarily please or fit into their parents' perception of what a life should be. Mm-hmm. That we were given to our parents and they taught us everything they taught us. And they taught us that in a sense to push us out of the nest. But my journey is not predicated on my mother's journey or my father's journey. My journey, in essence, has nothing really to do with them. I was given to them as a charge to make into a great person and teach very valuable things too. But my journey is inherently my journey. And so that's, I asked this because of that, right? So just so you know.
Yeah. So specifically, the parents that you met were my father and my stepmother, because my mom lived in Montclair already at that time. And I mean, the short answer is that they don't love what I do, and they have forever been after me to get a 9-to-5. That's what their perception of success is, having a salaried position that, comes with benefits. And my definition of success is being joyful and feeling like my life is in alignment with me.
But you've always been that way.
They celebrate my markers with me, which the things that they really understand. So when I got my bachelor's degree, they celebrated that. When I finished massage school 20 years ago, they celebrated that. I'm close to getting a master's degree in consciousness studies next spring, so they already are asking me about celebrating that. But those are the big markers that really make sense to them. When I call up, and because I'm close with my dad.
Yeah, you always have been. Yeah.
Yeah, and my stepmother and I are close now in a way that I wasn't with her in high school. but I, when I share with them oh, I was meditating and I had this beautiful experience, and then after I opened my eyes, there were new sessions with 3 clients, then they're like, okay, why are you connecting those two? Because they don't
understand the metaphysical versus the practical. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's just not where they're at.
Right.
It's interesting.
And that's okay. I mean, I talk about all the time. I say this all the time, and especially as I advocate for the intersex community, if somebody doesn't understand something, it's not necessarily because they're dumb or they're stupid, or it's just because they've not come in contact with that in their lifetime. It's not in their wheelhouse. So therefore their brain, their practical brain goes, oh, I've never heard of that. It's not a fit. I can't compute it. It's like a computer, I don't recognize that algorithm or that train of thought. So for them, they don't get it.
Yeah, and I see that as having a lot of moving parts, because like you talked about earlier, feeling like you're repeating an experience that you had, and that's true for so many of us. Universe will offer us a lesson gently, and then it'll offer us a little more loudly, and then it'll just smack us over the head with it, right?
Then it'll slap it like a Mylar bag. It'll be like, hey! And so I think one of the valuable things about having close relationships is when we can listen to the insight of the people around us with an open mind, not necessarily just accepting it, right? But with an open mind, then we can learn about valuable things that exist in our blind spots. And our blind spots are places that we literally can't see. We can't think in a new way because we don't know that there is a new way to think it. Lee O'Donnell has joined. He said, hello, good vibes. I said,
nice. Thanks, Lee.
I'm assuming these are your friends because I don't have any. I'm just kidding. There are a lot of people that support Just Juleigh, and we are grateful for their support. So that was 5 questions, and that allowed our listeners and viewers at home to get to know Veda a little bit better, as well as Rooted Arts. We certainly, if you have a website or a link for people to look at, we will include that tomorrow when we release this live, if you would like to do that. You're going to stay with me a little bit after the show, just so we can catch up a little bit more, and then I can ask you what you want to share that way with the show tomorrow. So you understand how things work. This show will always be visible on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Just Juleigh. And then tomorrow we take the audio from this and we kind of rip it from the podcast, and it will appear on Spotify, iTunes, Blurry, all the podcast dominions that we have access to at Just Juleigh. So everybody will be able to hear about Rooted Arts and what you're up to and what Cutie Patootie Eric's doing out in the yard and all that stuff. And I'm starting to think of Rooted Arts and your new homestead as like Fantasy Island. And I'm like, Juleigh needs to come visit. I need a Mr. Wart. I definitely need some Reiki. I could use a good massage, and I could use a definite catch up with a good friend and spirit from the past.
Yeah.
So we're now at the part of the show where Veda gets to ask a question of me of what it's like. Well, it's not even what it's like. Veda gets to ask a question of what it's like to have been in my shell, in my journey, my XXY intersex journey. It can be a question that she's always wanted to ask and maybe wasn't sure how to approach. I've never thought that to be a problem of hers. She usually just asks. But it can be any question that she wants to know about what I've had to go through as an intersex individual. In answering the question for her, I get to complete a puzzle piece for a friend, but I also get to educate the world at large that's listening as to what it's like to live in a very intersexual life. So Veda, the floor is yours.
Well, we were apart when you stepped into being Juleigh. And I would love to hear, I've seen some things about your journey, and I know like the amazing social justice warrior that you've been, which kudos. And I'm sure that there have been like,
is there any wine left in this bottle? I'm just kidding.
I'd really love to hear like what felt or maybe feels the most challenging for you in deciding to step into, I don't know, a new life. Yeah, like a new.
So just to give you a little bit of backstory, and for those that have just joined and they have no idea what my story is about or who I am, you can always go back and read my blog, which is available, and even watch past episodes of Rosé All Day at Just Juleigh on YouTube. We asked you to subscribe to that. And then just follow me on justjuleigh.com. That's JustJuleigh.com. Let me see if I have a banner that supports that. I think I do. That says, yeah, there we go. So I knew at 17 that I had an extra X chromosome. But the general consensus at 17, so that was before you and I met, was just to give individuals more testosterone that'll masculinize them out. They'll never have an issue. They'll be fine. And then when I lived in New Jersey and met you and was living in New York, I had a prostate cancer scare. And it was attributed to being on so much testosterone at that point in time. So I got off the testosterone and I wasn't on anything. Fast forward almost 23, 24 years, I went and did a study at the National Institute of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. And at that point in time, my crew of 8 doctors that were on this protocol came in and said, you are producing extremely low levels of testosterone, and you are producing even lower levels of estrogen. Your body needs a dominant hormone. With all the other issues that you have going on, you also now have lupus and osteoporosis of the lower back and spine. And while there's not a cure for that, we believe if you go on all of this estrogen, and when I say all of it, somebody that's trans may be on 3 to 4, 6 milligrams a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to put me on 48 to 52 milligrams of estrogen a week. And that's what I'm currently on. And I said, that's going to cause me to fully transition to the end of my female spectrum. And they said, yeah, it is. And you need to go home and have your ovary and testicle removed, and you need to have a partial hysterectomy on your partial uterus that grew in the womb. And, yes, that's exactly what it's going to cost. Now, at the time, I just thought I was a gay man. And I remember saying to the doctor, well, what if I go home and I have the ovary and the testicle removed and I don't go on the estrogen? And they looked at me with the gravest of faces I've ever seen. And they said, you can do that, but I'm pretty sure your life isn't over. And if you do that, we all believe that have been monitoring you for a week and will monitor you for the rest of this week. The reason we're talking to you this morning is because we believe you'll be dead by 48. Mm. And I don't think you want to be dead by 48. And for me, I immediately had a breakdown, mentally and emotional. I went back to the hotel that night. I drank 3 bottles of wine. I called my family. My siblings were all on board. I called my parents. My mom, God love her to death, but I have to understand where she was raised and where she came from. My mom's initial reaction was, you've had a great life and you've done amazing things. And don't take the estrogen, don't transition. And if you make it past 48, you do. And if you don't, you don't.
Thanks, Mom.
My dad said, how much longer you get if you go on the estrogen? And I said, I asked that question. And the doctor said, they're not in the business of prediction, but that they think that they can give me an additional 15 to 16 years, but that medical miracles happen all the time. Mm-hmm. And my dad didn't skip a beat. He said, Brad, I would rather lose you in 15 to 16 years as my daughter than to lose you in 5 years as my son. You're going to go tell them you want that estrogen. Mm-hmm. For me, that was not the hard part. I already knew from doing drag and from being slightly feminine most of my life, I knew that I was going to be okay and that I would look okay. Mm-hmm. You know, when I showed them pictures and was like, what am I going to look like? They're like that, but softer and better. Yeah. And so for me in the last 3 years, I absolutely revel when I go out in public and people go, oh my God, you're stunning, or oh my God, you're beautiful, or oh my God, like, how are you still single? That's been a delight. Yeah. Right? I revel in that. Give me a compliment. I will run to the bank with it. I think what's hard for me and what we shared a little bit prior to going live tonight and what I just talked to my mother about is because people don't really understand intersex, I fall into the trans category a lot. Mm-hmm. And what most men understand about the trans category is what they know from watching trans porn. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to dating, I get fetishized a lot, and I'm often treated like that unicorn that men want to cut the horn off of and be like, I was with the unicorn. Or I had somebody today was like, you have too many issues. I just want to fuck a tranny. Mm. And I was like, ouch. One, I'm not a tranny. So that means that you haven't really read my story and understand it. So I wouldn't really want to be with you that way. 2, I have more to offer than sex. Mm-hmm. I have more to offer than sex. And if you can't peel back the layers and see what I bring to the table, I don't want to have anything to do with you. But the hard part is that's what men want. And I can't flip the script to find the man that doesn't want trans sex or doesn't want intersex sex or doesn't want different sex. So for me lately, that's been the struggle, is that I have a lot of love to give and I have a lot of passion to give in my life. And I can't seem to find anybody that wants to share that beyond a blowjob or anal sex or just fucking. And that's frustrating because then I think I did all this. I didn't do all this to necessarily fall in love. it doesn't hurt that now people see me as stunning, whereas Bradford, they just saw me as cute and funny. But in light of everything, even when I think about everything we've talked about tonight, Texas, the ruling they've made over women's bodies, the different things that we're collectively dealing with in a society that's just broken. I think how sad that there are people out there that just want to have sex and they don't want the connection. They don't want anything beyond that. They want me because I'm different. But I've always said a hole is a hole. Stick your dick in a pool pump. It's going to feel the same. Like, sex is sex and it's wonderful and it's pleasurable. But at the end of the day, it doesn't fill my love tank. And that's been really hard. Thinking that the outer shell will, but I tell people too all the time, this is a vessel. You're not loving me for me. At the moment, you're loving me for it's like, here we go. This is a great example. It's a box of wine. You know where I'm going. This is a box of wine. You don't buy it for the box. You don't buy it for the box or the artwork on the front. You buy it for the wine on the inside. You're consuming the wine. This is a bottle of facial oil. You don't buy it for the bottle. You buy it for the contents, to get the nutrients from the contents. You're not spending time with me because of the vessel. You want what's inside me. You want my life spirit. You want my love. You want my connection. You want my energy. You want to be able to have a mind that you connect with on every level. That's what you're connecting. So I need that connection. So it's very frustrating that I'm often looked at as a sexual goddess or unicorn, if you will. So for me, that's been the hardest part. And then to have to deal with the mental of missing out on that has been really trying. That's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Don't fetishize people. Because don't. Like, it's a vessel.
Well, it's all, from my perspective, mind, body, and spirit, right, all go in to make up the person that we are. And like, I know I want my body to be appreciated, but not more than my mind or my spirit.
Right.
I want to be appreciated. I can so empathize because I want the whole package to be appreciated.
You're beautiful, and you have Eric. I'm sure he appreciates it.
No, yeah.
I get it. Yeah. I'm a little jealous, Veda. I'm a little jealous. He's pretty. He is pretty.
He is very pretty. I just said that to him yesterday.
He is pretty.
Very pretty.
I'm like, maybe I need to become vegan and live in a hut somewhere and get myself a pretty man with long hair. Tempting. It is tempting. Susie said, oh, I love this. Education is everything. Education is everything. Part of my overall platform is I cannot change the world or change perceptions without education. I'm blessed that my parents were both educators. I'm blessed that I have connected with people like Veda that are also into education. So Susie's like, wow. I'm like, I don't have a filter. Feel free to ask me anything at any time. I will be more than happy to answer. I'm probably, after my box of Franzia, this is a good, Franzia is going to be like, we're not going to be her wine sponsor. Franzia is probably going to make me go make bad choices later and sleep with somebody I don't need to be sleeping with. Franzia. So anyway, It has been a joy having Veda on this episode of Rosé All Day, Juleigh a Mess. Exciting things are coming in the pipe or pike, however you want to say it, for Juleigh. Please follow us at justjuleigh.com for more content. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're listening and you never watch, please take a moment to come and watch us. You will find a lot of things in our live stream that you don't get to necessarily understand just by listening to us on iTunes or Spotify or Blurry. And if you've never listened to us, maybe you'll get something out of just listening to us and not watching us, because I know a lot. So that next week we will try another rosé. I am looking at pulling out of Nebraska closer to the 18th now instead of October 1st. That should be a journey because I still don't have a place to live in Georgia. So as I said to my mom today, I am known completely. Blair and Charlie can absolutely attest to this. I am known for jumping out of the plane and then going, did I grab a parachute? So that should be fun for everybody. Follow me on TikTok if you're not. Thank you for watching us this week. I love all of you. Thank you for the support. Know that for all the jokes that I make, I am certainly tender and raw on the inside as well, which I think is why a lot of you love me. So come back and join us next week for a new episode of Rosé All Day. Julie's a Mess. I'm going to speak to Veda in the back for a few minutes to catch up. And I love you all. Have a great week. Thank you very much for your support.
For more content, follow justjuleigh.com. That's just Juleigh, JULEIGH.com. Thank you to our guests, and thank you for joining us this evening. Join us next week as Juleigh tries a different